So does anyone realize this is an election year? I'm going to tell you a story about reaching across the aisle, far across the aisle. I'm going to tell you about one of the most unusual relationships I've ever had. I grew up a big liberal in Pittsburgh. I would go to Pete Seeger concerts and sing super loud, and when our family voted, we would pull the Democratic lever. I became a photographer, and I decided not to photograph Republican politicians because I was in the business of glorifying people. I turned down photographing the Bushes at the White House, and I photographed the Clintons and the Obamas, who I love. I got an assignment from CNN to photograph this talk show host named Glenn Beck, and he came to the studio in New York and went through all the ideas that we had, especially this idea of him being on a diet. We also put him on top of a missile, and we tied him up on a conspiracy wall theory. They hired me to photograph Glenn for his next book jacket, and at the end of the shooting, he said, "I hate California." And I said, "That's a really crazy thing to say." And there was a map in the back of the studio of the United States, and I went and cut out California. It's shaped like a tongue, and I gave it to him and told him to eat California. That became the cover of his next book. Then Glenn went to Fox and kind of blew up and got really big, and he started ranting about Obama. He said, "Obama's a racist." And I called him up and I said, "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. You just shot yourself in the foot." So we planned our next photo shoot. I took him out in the desert, drilled a hole in his shoe, and took this picture. So in 2010, Glenn organized a rally in Washington where hundreds of thousands of people came, and he worked on the speech the whole summer. And the day before the rally, he read the speech to me, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "You're totally missing the point. Your fans all have this one-on-one relationship with you. They're listening to you alone in the car. They're listening to you alone at work. They're listening to you alone doing dishes. And they're all coming together and having a group experience with you. They're already on board with the politics. How can you give this talk to all these people that love you and not use the word love?" That discussion became the basis of our friendship, which was about finding universal truths rather than only defining ourselves by what our politics are. Thank you. I'm a photographer. I stay on the other side of the lens. So Glenn and I would look for places that we could connect. And it was not on issues. Climate change, all of those issues, we were completely different, but he would go on the air and make a very different case. So my brother got sick in Boulder a couple years ago, and Glenn would write to me every day, and he'd say, "What can I do for you?" And I told that to my mother, and she told him, "Cut the BS and vote Democratic." So I told that to Glenn, and he said, "George, I would do anything for you, but that's not gonna happen." Glenn was on Meet the Press a couple weeks ago, and my mother called me, and she said, "You have to tell him to drop 10 pounds and vote Democratic." And I told that to Glenn. He said, your mom's half right this time." So the bottom line is this. We are all, I'm sorry. I was at a Facebook meeting in Detroit yesterday, and they said that I should just come up and stand here and let the pictures speak for themselves. Yes, I mean, this is the thing. Glenn and I disagree on everything, but we found a way to get along by talking about being dads and husbands, and the goal is to go out in the world and look for love with your friends and also with your enemies or supposed enemies, and also maybe take some good pictures along the way. Thank you.